Time to get real, reality TV aficionados. Welcome to the Georgio Says podcast. I'm your host, the one and only Georgio Takanakis, and I'm here serving you the juiciest updates on all your favorite reality shows weekly, as well as the hottest pop culture trends, and even exclusive interviews that will leave you wanting more. This podcast will keep you on the edge of your seat. We definitely need to talk about this. The Georgio Says podcast starts now.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of Georgio Says the podcast, guys. I hope you all had an amazing holiday weekend. I hope you enjoyed the official last weekend of summer. So I don't really have a lot because I didn't do anything. I didn't go anywhere per se. I didn't take any trips or anything like that. My partner and I actually on Saturday ended up going to a one of those big like Korean spas that have like pools and all these different like sauna rooms and then like food and all these different steam rooms and salt rooms. So we ended up doing that for the majority of Saturday. I mean, we actually spent the entire day there, which was great because it allowed for us to have some rest and relaxation. And obviously, the environment was very relaxing in and of itself. So it made it really easy to just kind of unwind, not look at your phone, and just kind of be in the moment, which is what I was mainly there to do, was to relax and clear my head because I'm always thinking. And so it was the one time that I was able to kind of clear my mind and enjoy being present, which I've been trying to work harder on doing because it's so hard to think ahead or think in the past. But I've been better about not thinking about the past as much as I'm thinking ahead. And sometimes I get stuck ahead and I don't pay attention to present time, which is very important. So that was my Saturday. And then Sunday, my partner made Korean barbecue and his father came over and we just had a nice relaxing Sunday eating and resting and enjoying the weather. It is very hot. I will say the heat advisory was put out for us today. I'm out in the DC area. So it's about 96 or 97. The humidity is really intense. So there's that. But I'm going to absorb all of the warm days, hot days, if you will, as I can, because before you know it, it's going to be really, really cold. And then it's going to be a whole other story because then when it gets cold, it gets darker earlier. And that's a whole different type of depression. But that's not what we're here to discuss, obviously. And by the way, I wanted to let you guys know that a lot of you were very kind. I reposted yesterday. It was a holiday yesterday. So I figured because we have the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City season 4 premiere airing tonight, I figured I would repost. It was almost exactly a year to the day. My interview with Meredith Marks, which I did last year right before season 3 premiered, but I figured, hey, a lot of you guys probably hadn't seen it. So I reposted it for yesterday's episode. So I hope you guys got to watch and enjoy. And if you haven't, please go back and watch it. It's really interesting. Meredith's actually really, really funny, which I don't think we get to see all too much of on the show. But nonetheless, that was yesterday's episode. So today we're back on schedule with a fresh new episode. So I'm going to be discussing my take on Real Housewives of Atlanta first. Then we're going to take a break and then we're going to jump into Real Housewives of New York City. And I'm also, before we jump into Rhony, I'm going to jump on the first 2 minutes of that Salt Lake City premiere for tonight because man, oh man, it is chilling. But I want to start the episode with giving my thoughts on part 1 of Real Housewives of Atlanta reunion. I wasn't expecting all too much with the reunion, obviously, because in my opinion, guys, this last season really wasn't giving anything. Were there some funny moments? Were there some dramatic moments? Were there some good moments? Sure. But overall, it wasn't a great season. I think for the most part, most people can agree on that, even production. But what I was really disappointed was the amount of props and the animation for part 1. It was astounding to me. I mean, there was what was it? She News, which look, if that was the only prop that came up during the entire reunion and it was a good season, then fine, whatever, I don't care. But it felt like everything was a prop or an animation or like, I don't know. The whole thing is clearly being centered around Drew and her drama and her marriage, which at this point I'm starting to think everyone's kind of in on this. Not Courtney, because we learned that I don't even know if she's really I don't think she's actually really related to Ralph, actually, come to find out. After hearing her explanation, it was like kind of one of those things where it was like, so how are you related to Ralph, Courtney? And Courtney goes, well, so my dad's sister's neighbor's brother's niece is married to Ralph's brother's uncle's nephew's daughter who used to babysit for my neighbor. So, and it's like, oh, well, that's not really a real family relationship. I mean, maybe you guys consider each other family because you ran in the same circles, but I don't know if that would be like, I wouldn't call someone like that family. Or I would have clarified, I'm like, no, we're not really cousins. It's just we have a lot of mutual family members in common. That probably would have been better received, but she kind of ran with the fact that they were like, it almost made it seem like they were first cousins because that's what she made it seem like. That's my cousin Ralph. So I'm assuming, and I think most of you assume that that was her first cousin or like, but it's not. They're like, they couldn't be further from related. Um, so that was interesting. And I am gonna say this, I don't think we need Courtney. I think she looked beautiful though. I loved her dress. Dress was stunning, but I don't think we need her. She's clearly very thirsty to be on TV. She's clearly looking for moments. She came in really hot. Uh, and it seemed a little rehearsed. Kenya, I think Kenya's getting a little bit sloppy. She was trying to have this moment where she was calling Marlo out because something to do with the incident where Marlo kicked Kenya's hotel room door and Mark had an issue with it and he filed a court complaint. And so I guess now Marlo's involved, but I guess Kenya was trying to deliver what she was calling a subpoena for Marlo. And so she hands over this crinkled, folded up one sheet of paper to Andy. Andy's opened it. Everyone's gasping. He's looking at it. He's perplexed. He's like, this is, and I'm like, waiting for him to say something like, this is something really serious. And then it turns out that Kenya had printed the wrong document. It was just a blank form. There was nothing with Marlo's. There was no names on it. It was just it was like a template. Now, Kenya did share there was actually a real court document, but she said that she must have printed the wrong document. How you print the wrong document when you're coming to read, it just felt like she didn't really care. She just showed up and she just pulled whatever out of her ass as she could, making the most of it, I guess. But essentially, it seems like, Sheree was getting called out a lot, which she was very defensive. And I will say, like, it is valid questions. Candy was asking, like, why was half of the things that you showed on the runway not on your site? And it felt like Sheree was deflecting from that, from answering that. And frankly, I think that's what most of us wanted to know. I mean, the hoodies and stuff, that's all cute, but that's like more merch. And that's not what was displayed to us and to whoever was at that fashion show, because we were rooting for Sheree. I've said this before. I was excited for that fashion show because I was like, finally, she showed everyone that she really could pull something off. And then come to find out, most, if not any of those things were on the website when it launched. It was disappointing. And then the website didn't work. And then, but instead of her owning it and just saying, look, I'm doing a lot of this on my own, I'm still learning, I'm growing, she comes off like, I don't know, like, again, another situation where someone else gave her advice on how to answer certain things or how to bite back on certain like things around her business. And look, nobody wants you talking badly about your business. I get that. But let's call a spade, Sheree. Like, first of all, the merch on there was overpriced. So I don't know what that's about. And also, like, I do agree. Like, don't come for Candy's little boutique because Candy's not trying to sell things at an overpriced level. She knows her market and she knows what it is. She's not trying to hide what it is. I think the difference is Sheree's trying to hide a Shein, you know, clothing line that she got from the same factory that, Shein got their stuff from and just put her logo on it, but then she's upcharging it at such a drastic amount, which I don't understand that. Does no one do a simple Google image search to see what other sites are selling the same thing and how much they're selling, what the average sale price is based on what you're paying for the unit? That's where I get confused, and I think that's what's very frustrating about Sheree is that I think we want her to win, but she doesn't take the time to do the market research to do it the smart way, and she probably would have killed it. Let me just say this: had she had just put one, two, three of the pieces on the runway and the rest of it be merch at a reasonable price, she would have killed it. I could guarantee you that. But let me know what you guys thought about part one of Real Housewives of Atlanta reunion. If you watched, it seems like we get part two, which is the final part next week. And then we'll be done with this season. And then we can start to focus on how they move forward because I'll be interested to see how they deal with casting and what they'll do for Sweet 16 next season. But yeah, definitely let me know what your thoughts were on part one of the reunion. I'm interested in knowing. I didn't really feel like Sonya had much going on this season, and I think that was reflected in the reunion because again, we only have one more part. So we're not stretching anything here, thankfully. So I don't know. It seems like there's a few of the ladies. I'm gonna wait until part two and then I'm gonna give my assessments because I'm starting to see that maybe they're gonna tell us through these two parts who's probably not coming back. Um, so yeah, there's that. And moving on from Atlanta, I want to quickly touch on. So there's the first 2 minutes of the season 4 premiere of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City that has been circulating. And let me tell you guys, it's chilling. If you want to check it out, go to my TikTok or my Instagram at Georgio Says. You can check it out there. I'm, watching it as well, so we can watch it together. But it is bone chilling. I think I said this already, but I think season 4 is going to be the season that really gets people serious about this franchise in particular. I think the first 3 seasons were learning curves, and obviously we have the Jen Shaw of it all. Now that that's out of the way, I think these ladies can focus. And it seems like from the clips and the trailer and everything, they have done an outstanding job just from what I've seen. So I'm excited to watch tonight. And we're obviously going to recap Real Housewives of New York business classy because the ladies are coming for Jenna Lyons, just like I suspected. But before we do that, we're going to take a little break. And when we come back, we're going to jump right into Rhony and the Jenna Lyons business class of it all. We'll be right back. Dreamt of dining under the stars with Darth Vader or having a magical Hogwarts feast? Well, now you can with Fork Yeah. They're located just next to Disney World, and this private chef and catering service is more than just great food. Every meal is a themed experience from Disney classics to Harry Potter, Star Wars, and even Barbie the movie. Led by expert chef Mia, Fork Yeah combines fresh, locally sourced ingredients with endless creativity. Make your next gathering unforgettable. And guess what? For our listeners, you'll receive 15% off your bookings from now until November when you mention my name, Georgio Takanakis, at eatforkyeah.com. So head on over to eatforkyeah.com and book yourself an experience with amazing food that you and your guests will never forget. And don't forget to mention my name, Georgio Takanakis, when you book for 15% off. All right, welcome back, everyone. Thanks for sticking around because we're about to dive into the Rhony recap. It's going to be short and sweet because there was a common thread throughout this whole episode, and that's Brynn and Sai seemingly want to take Jenna down and make her look bad. And it's all being gassed by some information that Aaron brought back to the group when they were in Willa. But look, I'm going to start from the beginning because at the beginning of the episode, we pretty much get a little bit more insight into what this genetic disease does to Jenna and her body. So, for instance, she explained that it impacts the hair, the teeth, and her skin, and that's why her skin's blotchy and it's not even. There's just like it's discolored in certain areas. So that's why she's mostly covered up all the time, and that's why she's very self-conscious. And so this trip to Anguilla hits two nerves for her. First, she's never been on a girls' trip, and two, she's really feeling insecure being bare in front of these ladies for the first time when she has this like genetic disease that she's been dealing with that she's not super comfortable actually like exposing, which I understand. If I didn't know a group of people and I had some insecurity about something on my body or anything like that, I would be finding every which avenue to try to mitigate that and make myself be prepared and not be caught out in a vulnerable moment that might make me feel even more insecure. So I get where she was coming from in that moment. I don't think she was trying to find a way to not necessarily go or go with the women. I think she just wanted to have a moment to prep her skin, like literally. I think, she talked about tanning really helps even the skin tone out and makes it less visible. So I think her whole point was she was trying to navigate and plan how she would be able to get to do that before she ended up hanging out with these women. So then we go from there and we see that she talks about how many surgeries she's had just orally to get her teeth fixed. And so she has yet another surgery to get her teeth done. And Aaron, who lives close by, stops by very nicely, drops off some homemade butternut squash soup for Jenna. And Jenna loves this because I think, in her interview, she explained like, she got to see the friend side of Aaron, and now she's seeing the nurturing side of Aaron. So I liked this moment because it was very casual. It felt like a real friendship moment, like when a friend drops by to drop off soup for a sick friend and hangs out for a second just to check in with them. They're just sitting on Jenna's bed. It was very casual. And so Jenna discusses the whole, Anguilla trip and that she's decided that she needs to go down a couple days earlier so that she can kind of tan and get her skin kind of more even before she hangs out with these ladies, and kind of talks a little bit more about her insecurity regarding the genetic disease and all that stuff that goes into it. But then she also has another reason why she's going down 2 days earlier, and that's because she just can't fly coach. Okay. Now, look, say what you want. Yes, there are some people that are snobby about whether they fly coach or not, or I didn't get that vibe from her. I felt more like she was talking in the sense of like, this is what I got at least. It's this is Jenna fucking Lyons, ladies, okay? She has traveled quite a bit in her day, okay? Specifically for her career. So I can imagine that when you travel that much and that frequently, that you probably gain some sort of status. I don't know, like you probably rack up a lot of miles, so you can then, because of the frequency of your flying, you can now take more comfortable flights because now you have the miles or the points to upgrade your flight to a business class seat, more leg room, better food. And yet for some reason that comes off like a dig to the rest of the ladies because I guess they've decided on their own that they're flying coach. Okay. No one's forcing them to, but for whatever reason, they've chosen that that's fine with them. And listen, there's nothing wrong with coach. I fly coach. I've also flown business class. I mix it up, high and low, high and low. Now, for Jenna, someone of Jenna's like level, I would never assume that she would fly coach, but not because I think she's in that like that level where she's snobby like that. I just think that she's worked to attain the status on being able to get a business class flight rather than a coach seat. And whether it's an hour flight or 6 hour flight, it's her time and she's traveling. So I don't see what the issue was. But I knew instantly that it was going to obviously become a thing because we saw in the trailer that it comes up. But so we go from there. We find out a little bit more about Bryn. We see her hanging out with her brother, which was nice to see her with another family member of hers. But they discuss their issues around relationships, and Bryn talks, a lot about how her upbringing really kind of jaded her, and she finds herself throwing away these amazing opportunities with great guys simply because she wants to kind of get over the hurdle of the engagement. There's something around the engagement, the point of lead up to the marriage that scares her, and it could be that there's that time in between where it could still maybe not work. I'm not sure, but the one good thing about it is that Bryn seems self-aware enough to know that she is the problem in a lot of it. And so part of helping yourself is knowing what your problem is. So she's got one part of it down. The only other thing that came up that she mentioned that I always find to be perplexing is when she was like, well, maybe I won't get married. Maybe I'll just have a baby and maybe that's my story. And maybe that is, but I don't think having a child when you haven't really fully healed from your own childhood is probably the best move in terms of breaking generational curses. Just my opinion. Um, what else happened? Oh, we see that Jessel finds out that Pavitz decided he needs to take some alone time. So, in order to do that, he's going to fly 20 hours from New York to Vietnam, spend 3 days in Vietnam, have an amazing sandwich, and then fly home. Now, that sounds absurd to me. It definitely sounded absurd to Jessel based on her reaction. And look, she's right. He's going to spend the same amount of time traveling to and from Vietnam as he will being in the actual country. And is it really over a sandwich or is it something else? You know what I'm saying? I mean, no shade, but it's like, why 3 days? Why not five? Like 3 days? That's such a random, not that's just a random amount of time. I don't know, a random amount of days to spend in a country that's that far away. 20 hours? That's like, I feel like it would take you at least a day and a half to get on the time zone of Vietnam, let alone have to turn around and have to fly right back. That would like, how is that relaxing? But he says that he loves to fly and he finds that the flying time is like a vacation in and of itself. So, you know what? If you like it, I love it. I just, deep down in my gut, I'm not buying that it's about the sandwich, or maybe it's about a different kind of sandwich. I guess we'll have to keep watching because I think this continues to come up. But from there, we finally get the ladies minus Jenna because, again, she went down 2 days earlier to Anguilla finally. And I have to say, Sai, she does complain a lot about food and hosting and things like that. But she was in charge of this one and she did a fantastic job because that villa is stunning and she had food. The rooms were beautiful. I mean, everything was just fantastic. But we don't waste too much time before Erin tells the ladies the real reason why Jenna didn't come down with them, and that was because she didn't want to fly coach. Now, I feel like the way Erin presented the information to the women in that moment was taken a little bit out of context because the way she made it seem was like as if Jenna was like, "Oh, I'm not flying with them in coach. Ugh, that's beneath me." She kind of said it in the spirit of like, "Oh, I just can't. Like, it has nothing to do with if you guys can make like what I said earlier, she's probably traveled so much that the thought of any flight in coach probably gives her like the icks because frankly she doesn't have to anymore. I'm sure at some point she was flying coach. That's kind of how it works. When you can get something better comfortably for yourself to be able to enjoy something, then you do it. And that's just for her. I don't find her boasting about it. Like it wasn't in that, but the way Erin made it sound was kind of like she was just taking a dig at them. And so obviously Sai didn't take nicely to that because Sai's already been complaining that, and Bryn too, but Sai mostly has been pointing out that Jenna is big on giving gifts or whatnot, like the gift bags and all the gifts that she's been giving the ladies. And she keeps pointing out that all of the gifts coincidentally happen to be collaborations that Jenna's done with brands. And, Sai's whole point is like, look, I'm not doing this for free. I'm not going to be posting about your collabs for free. Like, I need the money. And to that, I will say this as a content creator who also works with brands and also gets things sent to me all the time. Um, you, as a creator, part of being a creator is knowing that we are blessed in being able to do what we do. Number one. Number two, if Jenna Lyons was handing me goodie bags every time I saw her, I would post about that shit for free because it's Jenna Lyons. And to me, I would look at that as a great networking opportunity, not like, oh, here comes this person who wants me to like push her collabs. Like it's some random influencer or something. It's Jenna Lyons. These are like collaborations that mean something. And I would want to share that. And it would be good for Sai to share that. She's a fashion influencer. Why wouldn't you want to share those things? That makes you look more solid and more connected to Jenna Lyons. Like that gives you more, I would think that would give you more access and more doors open for you because you're shaking different hands at a different level than maybe you would have before. I'm just asking because it just seems weird to me that we're so offended by these gifts, but then you're putting it under the guise of like, well, I'm a content creator and this is what I do for a living. Well, then do it. Sai, do it. Not everything I post or shout out or promote is I'm not being paid for every single thing. I love promoting people's things. And if I like it, I'm going to promote it. Not everything equals dollar amount, but I guess everyone runs their business differently. I just think it's rude. Like I'm just saying, she's very giving. It's from what we've seen, she's been giving a lot of gifts for no reason, just because she can, and they just keep shitting on it. And Bryn too. It's like, who are you guys to think that she needs you to post her stuff? Like as if she doesn't have her own following on social media. Like, come on, that sounds absolutely ridiculous. Um, But anyway, so from there, the ladies are all getting obviously fired up, and you just know that Jenna's gonna walk into the lion's den, which she did. But I felt bad for her in the moment because she comes in, she's wearing her pretty little sundress, she's got her nice tan, she's relaxed, she looks rested, and then these ladies are just grilling her with questions, mainly Sai and Bryn, because it didn't matter what her answer was, they weren't going to be satisfied with. They had made up in their mind that they were going to just not like the fact that she seemingly took a dig at them because she didn't want to fly coach with them, when in fact she has more stuff going on and it's a little bit more layered. But I think they're using her vulnerabilities that she's trying to be open and share about when asked these questions, instead of just being like, oh wow, that I understand that. I may not like it, but I understand it more. I wouldn't still be like, oh well, that's a cop out, like how Bryn said to Jenna Lyons, like, oh, that's a cop out. Well, what is a cop out? That's not a cop out. You asked a question, she's answering you and giving you some information that maybe she doesn't really have to share with you quite yet, but she is, and you guys are turning this around on her, and it was just crazy to watch. Like, why are we doing this? Also, it's not going to work out in your favor because there's way too many people that adore Jenna Lyons. So good luck with that, Sai and Bryn. If that's what your goal is here, it's not going to work. And then what else happens? I mean, we kind of wind down. We don't actually get them going to dinner quite yet. They're getting ready to go to dinner. And then we see Jenna and Jessel having a conversation. And Jessel seemingly is siding with Jenna and trying to get her to open up a little bit more about how she feels about the interaction that she had just had, which was very interesting because I could tell the way that Jessel framed the statement to Jenna when she asked. She was like, I'm sure that would have made you feel like, it was almost like a producer was like, try to get her to open up about how she felt about it. And that's just kind of how it came off to me. But it was interesting because it's like Jessel's making sure that she keeps her alliance with Jenna because obviously she's not dumb. She has a fashion background. She has her PR firm. She's not going to follow suit with that. She's gonna swoop in and side with Jenna as anybody would. But there's no side to take here because, in my opinion, Jenna didn't do anything wrong. She didn't do anything wrong, but for some reason, we're going to make this a thing. Like, I think the Sai leaving Aaron's event early without saying goodbye is more rude than Jenna saying, I'm going down 2 days early to tan my skin. And oh, by the way, I can't fly coach. It's not that I can't be bothered to fly with these ladies at all. It's just that I need to do this for myself so I can be zen when they come. So I can be ready to my first girls trip and not be self-conscious the entire time. That's what I have to say about that. All right. Well, so that's the recap for rhony, you guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Georgio Says the podcast. And before I let you guys go, just a few friendly reminders. As always, if you're not following me on TikTok or Instagram, it's at Georgio Says. And you want to make sure you're following me on TikTok because I go there first with all my recaps, any news, anything like that. So make sure you're following me there. And obviously follow me on Instagram too, because I share some of my personal life. So if you're nosy and you care, head over there and see what I'm up to now. And if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, that's really sad, but you still have time to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss when I upload. And if you're watching this podcast, hello. And if you're listening, thank you. And if you feel obliged and you love this podcast and you love me and you want to show me some support, you can leave me a 5-star review wherever you listen to this podcast. And I'm trying to think what else I need to tell you. No, that's it. I love you guys. And until tomorrow, I will talk to you on the next episode. Bye, guys.